Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Thuja Hill. I'm so glad to have you here today as we are going to be interviewing someone extremely special to me. He's been on the channel before. This is my husband. Welcome to the channel, my love.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back. The reason why I have him here today, other than the fact that he lives at this house and he's my best friend, is because a lot of you that watch this channel are readers. And I wanted him to share with us kind of his background in reading The Horse and His Boy by C.S. Lewis. As you are likely well aware, The Horse and His Boy is one of the books that is in the Chronicles of Narnia, written by Lewis in the 1950s. What I find fascinating is that my husband has read that particular book in the series 20 times?
20 times.
20 times. Okay. Now, anybody who has spent time reading a book 20 times, it makes me ask, why? What's so good about it? What draws you in? So without further ado, we're going to dive right in and discuss this great book by C.S. Lewis. All right, my love. Well, I have some questions for you today about this book. I've seen you reading this book, listening to the audio, and I'm intrigued. I would like to know, first and foremost, why have you been drawn to this book 20 times?
Well, first, I'd like to preface this by saying, in my life, any great piece of art, whether it's music, a film, a story, a book, I would revisit. So there are albums that I've been listening to for 25 years. This book captivated my imagination and captivated my heart because of the characters and just because of the way it was written. It's incredibly witty. It's very funny. I will say that, just a plug here, that the version that Alex Jennings did the audio version for Harper Audio in 2002, he did it so masterfully that I have went through the book quite a bit just listening to him. He just does a great job on the audiobook, but truly, like, the masterpiece and everything that comes together in this book is obviously C.S. Lewis himself. And there's many different reasons why this book captivated me. One of the main moments that I just knew I was hooked was at the beginning of the book. So Shasta is the main character. Mm-hmm. There's Shasta, there's Bree, the talking horse. There's Aravis, she's a Calorman, and there's Hwin. So those are the four main characters, right? I
remember, yeah.
Yeah, so...
I read it too, but I only read it once.
So
it wasn't my favorite. Go figure.
It wasn't your favorite. No, you actually, you didn't like the desert aspect.
I like The Magician's Nephew.
And that's an amazing book too. That came, so it was The Horse and His Boy, Silver Chair, and then The Magician's Nephew, I believe.
Yeah, with Eustace Scrubb.
Right. But there's a moment in this book, and right away I knew I was going to love this book. He overhears a conversation where he's going to be sold by his master to another master. He's hearing them barter, and he's like, oh my gosh, what if this guy is amazing, but what if this guy's cruel? Like, I wish I knew what this guy was like, because he might really put me in chains and really treat me horribly. And then he walks by the horse and he says, if only someone can tell me, I bet you this horse knows, if only you can speak, old fellow. And then the horse says, but I can, in a whisper. At that moment, I knew right away I'm in love with this book. Yeah. Just that moment, the way that was positioned and the timing of all that and the thoughts, right there, I knew it. I'm like, I'm going to love this book, yeah.
So what is it about that moment in particular? Like, does it remind you of something? What is it that titillates you or makes you excited?
It's brilliant. I mean, you have this guy that's overhearing that, first of all, he thought that Hashish, the fisherman that's been taking care of him the last 11 years, was his father. He overhears a conversation of him selling Shasta to another man just traveling through for money, and he hears that he was never his father. And in the book it says, Shasta actually felt relieved at this because everyone should love their own father, but he never loved Hashish. Yeah. So he hears this revelation that Hashish is not his father, that he's going to be sold, and then he starts to think, what if my life is going to get better? Because his life was really brutal. Like, the guy beat him a lot. He was really rude. He slept on the floor, ate stale bread, always smelled like fish. But then he has this thought, this reality, like, my life might get even worse than it is. And then he's thinking out loud. He's like, if only this horse can tell me, because I bet you this horse knows what this guy's like. And then the horse speaks. I mean, that is brilliant.
Cool.
That's a really cool moment.
Well done. So typical of Lewis.
Yeah, it's genius.
It actually, I will say, it reminds me of the story of Balaam's donkey.
Right.
I mean,
that's true.
I mean, that being a true story, it's pretty incredible to think about an animal turning around and being like, "Why are you hitting me?"
Yeah,
You know,
true.
and it happened.
Yeah,
It's
and
recorded
everyone
in scripture, and that's
Yeah.
a very memorable story. When I think about that book, I remember the part of Aslan saying to Shasta, "I was the one that was protecting you in the boat."
Yeah.
That is, to me, such a picture of the Lord, like what he does for us when we're lost or alone or, you know, drifting. He's there with us.
Yeah.
And actually, that part of the book stood out to me as probably my favorite part when Aslan shows up and mentions that. But
there's actually a great podcast that a Christian organization did with this guy that's you know, a scholar. It talks about like that providence is one of the main characters in the book, and it is true. There's a lot of providence in the book.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of themes and a lot of kind of Easter eggs, if you will, in the book. There's a lot of pride. There's a lot of class system in the book. There's a lot of talk about clothes. And every situation, they're always talking about how they should dress so that they could either be in disguise or so that they could even fit in, or that so that they can even be accepted. So clothes is a huge part. And also when they're going through the desert, Shasta doesn't have shoes this entire time and his feet are burning, right? When he first meets King Loon, King Loon mistakes him for his son because they look identical, and he says, "My son on foot and in rags and with no shoes." What, you know? So pride, clothes, and the class system is so prevalent in this book. One of the things that's captivating about the Narnia series in general is it's a great way to teleport out of this modern era. And C.S. Lewis, he was a modern man too, living in the era he was living in, and he wanted to be basically teleported into another world. But what he does in the story is he takes modern children that are living in present day England, he puts them in during the war, and he teleports them to another world where time stands still. So when in England, like you can be in Narnia for 20 years and it can be 2 minutes in England.
Yes.
So he does that time travel shift where time stands still in another world, and then in Narnia it can go on for ages. What I like also about this story is it is such a departure from what the rest of the Narnia stories feel like, because you really don't spend that much time in Narnia. You do it towards the end of the book, but for the most part, you're trying to get to Narnia. And one of the common themes in the book is Narnia and the North. Bree always says that because Bree was a Narnian. He crossed the border into Archenland and he was taken into captivity, and he never spoke because he wanted to be, you know, he knew he would be basically guarded if he spoke and kind of pranced around at shows. So he says, I wasn't so witless that I ended up being quiet because I wanted them to think I was a dumb and witless horse. I would love to live in this book for a day. It'd be a wonderful to experience.
To wrap it up here, I will say you touched on something that you'd love to live in the book for a day. And I'm actually reading a book right now called Piranesi, and it's been a really interesting book. I have found myself feeling the same sort of peace and happiness to have this book to dive into in the evening. It is so much better for the soul and for the mind than to be on the phone or to even watch TV. There's something that a book can do that other media cannot do. It's just so helpful. And I think to get wrapped up in a story is such a gift. It's just a gift. It's a gift that these writers have given to us. I mean, Lewis is dead and gone for so many years, and yet we're still getting to enjoy the fruits of his labor through these great works.
And he gave us so much more than the Chronicles of Narnia.
Indeed.
Mere Christianity, my brother bought for me, ironically, when I first came to faith. And that book really did change my life. That book and John Piper's Desiring God changed my life.
Forever.
So those, you know, it's funny that, you know, fast forward, I don't know, almost 20 years, and then I kind of read the Chronicles of Narnia and then, you know, discover The Horse and His Boy. I knew about Narnia. I used to watch the series when I was a kid, the BBC series, and our daughter has seen it a bunch. But I remember watching those series, but they never made The Horse and His Boy. So I never got to really know about the story. So it's funny that I kind of discovered the story as an adult, not as a child.
Yeah.
But the other stories I knew of.
Right.
I think this book, I'd recommend it to any father, son, or any parent to read to their children, whether I wouldn't say this book, even though it's got a boy in the title, is gender specific. I think because Aravis is such a prominent character in this book, that it's a book for boys or girls. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be just a boys book. But there's a lot of girlish things in this book too, with Aravis and her Tarkina friend Lazareline. And I'm telling you right now, that is comedy. The interaction between Lazalarine and Aravis is just amazing. It's so funny. So I just think this book is delightful. I plan on going through it another 20 times if the Lord wills. So I just love it. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll go through it again too. I think you've convinced me.
Yeah, we should do that.
Well, thank you so much for chatting today, my love. And friends, thank you so much for joining us over here at Thuja Hill. We have so enjoyed having you, and I hope this little review and synapse of the book was helpful to you. I hope many of you will go out and read the book if you haven't. It's a wonderful read. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as usual, my friends, I thank you so much for coming back to today's video, and I look forward very much to seeing you in another brand new one very soon. Goodbye for now.